Thanks everyone for showing. This is Founders Day weekend number 4. We've been working with the community and the community's been working with us. I want to say the last few years, Doug, we've been working pretty well together. Main thing that we want to cover here is just some general things for the community, and one of the first topics that I wanted to discuss was the Forge, because I think that's going to be a game changer in how we share and upload and sell our content. The other things we'll tackle them as we come, but I think the Forge is the first one we're going to talk about. And again, this is Founders Day 4 with Doug Davison. I want to say thanks for showing up and putting up with our technical difficulties this morning.
Well,
So,
Leroon, though, who are you, right? I
oh,
mean,
who am
you
I?
you've
Well,
been around here for a while too, so yeah.
okay. Well, I'm founder Leroon. My real name's Aaron. I live in the Seattle area. Uh, been playing D&D and role-playing games since 1981, and found Fantasy Grounds, I want to say, in 2011, and I really didn't do much with it. And I came to the point where one of my coworkers had decided to check it out, and I already had it, so I reinstalled it, and we connected, and we actually used it as a chat tool. We didn't have any content, so then I kind of just went into using Fantasy Grounds because I realized that it was an interesting tool. Before that, I was pretty ignorant about it, but as time went on, I realized, I really want to get my head wrapped around it. So I decided to run a table. As a matter of fact, Mars Whip was one of my first players. We played for about 5 or 6 months, and then I really understood that there's a lot I was missing. So I went on this tangent of, instead of being a big crybaby and get frustrated with it, I actually just said, okay, let's figure this out. And I started watching Digital Days videos and some of the other older ones that were out there. And I said, I want to help people learn this too, because I'm struggling with it. So I
That's
decided,
called a hero's journey, I think, right? That
yeah,
you underwent. Yeah.
yeah. So it
Yep.
was kind of like, one of those things where changing your mind about, how you think about things really impacts what you do from day to day. And I think at that point in my life, I was, kind of at this melting point. And then I was sitting there at work one day and I said, you know what, I need to stop thinking that way and quit being a big baby and fighting and just being a real, being a loser, basically. You just fighting yourself, basically. So I quit, looking at what I couldn't do, and I focused on what I could do. And one thing I could do was figure the software out instead of, putting that on everybody else. So that's why, what really got me going on this is that I felt that it was important that people learn how to use the platform so they can play their favorite games. And I didn't was going to let, my little shortcomings get in the way.
Mhm.
So I wanted people you know, to kind of look at things differently. And that was my vision at the time is, I was trying to force my ideals on anybody, but I really wanted people to change the way they think about things and give Fantasy Grounds a shot and put your time in it and, don't complain and
So
have a good
realistically,
time.
though, that was the impetus for
Yes.
the college 4 years ago, right?
Yes.
And fast forward to so then it was you, Mars Whip, and four other people or something like that.
Right.
And fast forward to today, and you've got how many people that belong to our server?
Last time I looked, we were about 9,300 people.
That'll
Um,
work.
and we used to see average anywhere from 2 to 10 people per day,
Hmm.
depending on what's going on. Usually product releases and you know
Yep.
special events like this and stuff. Those usually bring people in.
Awesome.
The other thing is that when Smiteworks makes big changes and stuff like that, like when the lighting came out, there was a few more people. I've noticed people coming over from other platforms, which was a good thing.
Hmm.
We still have a real steady influx of some of the top VTTs that are out there that had a good market share at the time, I
Yeah.
think. So it's one of those things where, it comes and goes, but I think more coming than going because our retention level is pretty higher.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of attrition. You get a few people that we have to, say goodbye to, but most of the people here are pretty decent. And I want to thank all of you guys for showing up and checking this out. And I just wanted to, share that the fact that I have no, I'm not looking for power or glory. I really want this to be owned by everybody. I don't really, not looking to be a star or anything like that. I just want you guys to learn how to use the platform. That's really what I want. And when I say learn, I don't just mean looking at it. I mean actually become intimate with it, learn how to develop for it, learn how to play it, learn how to run it, learn how to troubleshoot it, learn how to communicate about it. And that's really what needs to happen to be successful as a community, and also as a as a platform. We have to work together. And this is kind of why I brought Doug in here, is because just kind of show a little bit of solidarity and also cooperation with our team members and our friends, and all of you people here that are watching, and people watch in the future, that this is really about all of us. This is not about Smiteworks, not about the college. It's about everybody coming together and sharing their knowledge, and that's really what the college uh, thing is about. So that's where I'm at on the college.
Cool. All right. So let's jump back into the Forge and
Yep.
talk about what's going on there. So
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So the Forge is something that's been kind of in my mind for a long time, to have some sort of a self-publishing platform. One of many, many projects that's been on a shelf for way too long. And then, in some cases, you see other people making moves in areas, and then, DM Skill took off, which kind of took a little bit of the pressure off of having a Forge, because we kind of had a back channel way to allow people to self-publish. And then we also do a lot of publishing where we work directly with various creators to, sign them up with official like publisher licenses and all that sort of stuff. So the Forge is, a way to help facilitate that, to streamline it, to make it faster for people that want to create stuff, to be able to, manage their own system. And it's the first step, it's the first iteration. So the Forge that you see today is not going to be the Forge that you will see in 2 months or 6 months or a year. It's something that we are committed to evolving and growing alongside our company. So that's part of the reason why sometimes things take a little bit longer, is because we have to basically set aside the resources to basically continue to manage something. So you can't just throw something out there and then just say, oh, there it is. It's we're done. Check it off the list, and we move on. We have to actually keep it going. So I think there's some really interesting things with the Forge that you're going to see that I hope will take off. The big one is that there was a little bit of a pain point whenever we have a new update of Fantasy Grounds. Occasionally extensions will break or need to be updated, basically, in order to work properly. And so I think that was a something that a lot of our end users experienced. Oh, I've got these 30 or 40 different extensions and stuff that I use on a regular basis that I really like, that enhance my play experience. And then whenever we do an update, they'd have to go to those 30 or 40 different forum areas and then find the new versions, update it, and then kind of go from there. So allowing a system that's more automated, so that as soon as you hit update on your program, it just goes out and grabs all that stuff and updates it, really helps mitigate that major issue. And it allows the crafters, the community developers that were building all these great extensions, to go ahead and just update it on their own timeline and have it automatically roll through to either the live channel, the test channel, that sort of stuff. So we wanted to basically expose the same sort of capabilities that we had internally to our community of developers that are out there.
that makes sense.
The other thing that we wanted to do is we really wanted people to be able to, if they want to give stuff away for free, that's great. That's what our forum kind of supported right now. But we also wanted to, allow people to, sell stuff. And, some people can make a living off of just creating cool little things for other people to use and play. And so, we try whenever possible to work with even small indie publishers to get their work in the store. And that's something that, we devote a lot of time and resources to. Frankly, at a fairly high cost a lot of times, because sometimes, we probably spend more time than we earn on those things. But that's important for us to feel like lift up people in the community, that, you never know, they might be the next biggest, author of game material. So
Yeah.
that's kind of another thing, is we wanted to make that easier for people to do, and for people to, start dabbling in the actual RPG industry.
So you have a number of things that are in the store right now that are indie publisher type things. Is the Forge going to take over most of that indie publishing function?
I suspect it probably will. I mean, it's
Mhm.
nice because it's an easy way for them to just get stuff in right away. For people that don't necessarily, maybe they're brand new to it and they don't feel comfortable doing that directly, then they may want to still go through the typical publisher route, because we do a lot more. Like when I check things in the Forge, right now I'm the one doing all of our moderation. We overly moderate everything at the moment, but over
Yeah.
time we'll streamline that as well, and we'll bring in more moderators and stuff. But so right now, when people publish something to the forum, a new build, for instance, I'm not running it through the same level of checks that we would do through our normal publishing channel. This is
Right.
basically, you can, whatever you put out there is what's going to go out to people. So you need to kind of like check your work and do that sort of stuff. And so that may be a good fit for some people, it may not be a good fit. So, we still kind of leave it up to people which route they want to go. We have a more exhaustive kind of process that we run through when we do stuff to our main store.
Yeah. You and I were talking about things like token sets in the Forge the other day, and it brought up an idea that I wanted to ask you about. If you saw the Forge potentially serving audiences beyond just users of fantasy grounds. So, for example, I am allowed to actually, I guess, provide the actual PNGs to somebody if I choose to do so for a token, which would let them potentially reuse that anywhere that they could use PNG files, right? So have you even thought about, and I expect that maybe the answer is no, but have you thought about anything outside of just using it for fantasy grounds?
Our main focus is really just the Fantasy Grounds community. We don't have an extra exclusivity that we tack on anything. So if you were to use images and stuff like that you want to use, turn around and do that on Roll20 or Foundry or Astral or any other BTT, or just through Patreon or your own site, that's fine. We're not adding extra exclusivity onto it. We do have our normal kind of thing about you can't put .mod files and that sort. Like at a certain level, you can't have like the Fantasy Grounds version that's sold elsewhere. I mean, that has to be part of a broader publishing agreement. But you could
Right.
just use the same assets for many different sources, and I expect that a lot of people will do that. And I think when I spoke to you, I recommended that I don't see any reason why you would exclude yourself from those
Right.
other alternate channels, when you have stuff out there. Now we do have you mentioned tokens. So we have a internal tool that we use, which is a token builder, where you can basically have images of any size, and then you put them into various buckets and just say, is this a medium size or smaller creature or a large size creature or whatever, and it'll auto size it and do stuff for you and help build that actual token asset pack for you. So we do have plans to add that in there, similarly with portrait packs and map packs, so that it becomes even more accessible to creators who may not know anything about the underlying framework and the schemas of what a Fantasy Grounds module needs to look like. Just
That's
have
nice.
it fill it out automatically. So that's something that you'll see coming down the line at some point.
That's awesome. Any other questions about the Forge, Aaron?
I think no, I don't have any questions. The comment is that I'm really happy that it's finally here and that it's in progress. It was something that I felt was necessary, just as a user, and I'm really happy that it's come about. So
I mean, I think, there's another potential, which I meant to bring up earlier too, but so one of the things that's really kind of cool and clever about building modules and building content within Fantasy Grounds, and I'm sure, most of the people that are watching have done the same sort of thing, you can drag and drop stuff from all sorts of different models that you have. So the more stuff you have, the more creative you can become. And you can just link stuff over and it doesn't copy that content. So if I was to use, say, Cobalt Press's Tome of Beasts, and I really like all their cool monsters. They do great monster design. They've got great imagery, great, tokens, all that sort of stuff that's already preset for me. in a module, and I just want to make an adventure, and maybe my adventure wants to use those creatures, I could just link and use those things directly. When I export it out, those creatures are not duplicated. It's just a link to each of those creatures. So it links back to that original source material. And so we just basically started reaching out to a lot of our publishers to say, hey, would you allow people to do this in their Forge creations, and just acknowledge it and say, this depends upon, say, Cobalt Press's Tome of Beasts. And they said, yeah, that'd be great. And so I think that plus people that do map packs would be the same thing. Internally, we have our FG Art Pack. And so a lot of those are tile-based packs and other imageries and brushes, interesting like image paint brushes that you could use. So you could create some really cool things. And then you could export that out and share that even onto the Forge and use that. And basically what it would do is it helps the original source material, that owner of that content as well, because then that has more stuff depending upon it. So you have people that are like, hey, I really want to hit the art pack subscription so I can use all these really cool maps that people have built using those products, or that use Tome of Beast or whatever.
Yep.
That's
That
pretty
makes
cool.
total sense. Yeah.
So right now we have, so Smiteworks allows our stuff to be shared. So the art pack subscription or other content that we have AAW Games that's allowed any of their content. They've got a ton of map products and tile packs and even modules and bestiaries and stuff like that. So they said their stuff's fair game. Devin Knight, all of his tokens. Again, you don't duplicate his tokens. You just use the tokens from the existing packs. That's the proper way to do that. Cobalt Press, they've got a lot of map products and modules and bestiaries and stuff like that. Mongoose Publishing, big Traveler fans want to use and link directly to Traveler and have the ships from the actual Traveler modules and their adventures and stuff. That's cool. Pinnacle Entertainment Games has got a little bit limited version where you can link back to like the new Savage World Adventure Edition stuff, but not to their individual. Like you can't go to Deadlands or their various IPs beyond that. But Goodman Games said their whole catalog is free and clear to use. Legendary Games, same thing. And then I'm sure that there's going to be other publishers that are coming there. I'm reaching out to I reached out to Paizo, had some early discussions with them. I could see them utilizing that as well. And you could use like all the stuff from the bestiary 1 through 5 of Pathfinder 1 or the Starfinder stuff or whatever. So hopefully that'll be coming soon. I do have a forum link on the thread called FG Forge Guidelines for linking to other products. So it's like a crafter guideline. So check that regularly, subscribe to it, and you'll see whenever I get a new publisher that's signing up and on board for it, we'll add them to the list.
Yep. Is it likely that we will never see Wizards of the Coast say that we can do that?
I'm hoping that I can convince Wizards of the Coast that this is a good thing for them, because I really do believe it would be great. I mean, I
Sell
think
more of their stuff, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you've got Volo's Guide stuff linked and Mordenkainen and Monster, the Monster Manual, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
It just all it does is it gets more people to say, I want to buy all that stuff so I can create stuff.
Agreed.
I think right now I just have to show them that it's different than DM's Guild. So, if you look at how DM's Guild is set up, DM's Guild opens the door for people to use actual content and fully duplicate a lot of content directly in their adventure. And then you have to worry about, well, how much did they use? Did they duplicate too much? Did they only use enough? And it becomes a little bit of a maintenance issue to kind of go through and moderate that kind of content to make sure that people are not going overboard. Like someone could say, hey, I want to include all the monsters from the monster manual and then just change 1 or 2 little things. Then that would obviously be a major faux pas in DM's Guild. They would say, no, you can't do that because you're basically just reselling our content with minor changes. The beauty of this whole system is that none of that content is actually shared. So, if you're just linking to something in the monster manual, if you don't have the monster manual, then that module is useless to you. So, you can value it appropriately and the original content doesn't get devalued in any way whatsoever. It actually gets inflated in value. So, I mean, I think it's a really unique thing that we could do that other people are not even capable of doing. You can't do that in a PDF. You can't do the same sort of thing. Like you can't have a PDF that links to another PDF to, whatever, just opens it on the fly in the same way that we can do with modules. So it's something that I think could potentially be revolutionary. I hope it will be.
Makes total sense. All right. Why don't we go on to the next topic? So
yeah, I put a link for the Forge that Doug was talking about, the House of Healing for the Forge. So you can, if you guys can check that out later. Before we go to the map tools, I would like to introduce some of our faculty members that I'd be remiss to not do so. And we'll start with Garner because he actually came in fairly recently. In my in my own terms, anyways, it's recent. But yeah, so he is basically my second at the and Greg also he's here as well.
Hmm.
Boffrin is kind of our outside man in, so he doesn't really get involved too much with uh with the community, but he comes from the outside, so it's kind of like having somebody like it's an outside salesman kind of thing, where you're not really in house, you're more out looking at the community as a whole and
Yeah,
looking at everything kind of thing.
and you're more objective.
Yes, way more objective.
Hmm.
So yeah, you're not drinking the same Kool-Aid, so that's
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 right.
good. And then we have some faculty in here, like evolution here, or evil evolutions here, and we have Jim is with us, Jim and Mocha, and we have Mars Whip is a moderator. So a lot of the people who are live in this room are part of our faculty, and but we want to get with Windrunner and let us know what your take is on Fantasy Grounds, and what your role is here in the community.
Yep. Well, I think my role is actually janitor. So I just run around behind Aaron and clean things up, right?
Yep.
Um, but I got involved a few years ago specifically because my best friend, who we grew up playing D&D together, but he's in Tokyo and I'm in Atlanta, and we wanted to be able to do something to hang out. And we weren't even thinking about virtual tabletops at the time, but I did a little bit of research and found Fantasy Grounds. And now, not only do we play every week, but our kids play together. They know who each other are, and they never would have, even had that opportunity to get together if not. Um, I professionally worked for a digital marketing company, and so I think when I came in, both as a technical expert on architectures and how software works, and then combine that with a little bit of expertise on digital marketing, it's been fun to come in and help you try to, I guess, deliver all of the services to the community that they're expecting. I can tell you that one of the things that we'll talk more about as the weekend goes on is things like our website and other things like that that haven't gotten quite enough attention over the last 6 months that we needed it to do. But I think that rolls up underneath me, and definitely trying to help make sure that uh, from a management perspective that we're taking care of all of the pieces of business that we need to make sure that the community is getting what they're expecting from us too. So also taking on a little bit of the communication with Doug and the rest of his team on a regular basis too. So uh, I guess jumping into our next topic, which is the map tools. That was actually one of the things that I took on last summer as Smiteworks was coming out with their new framework. And so um, it was something that everybody was excited about and long awaited. But the map tools and the art packs and everything else that you guys have come out with has been something that I think has caused a lot of excitement, a lot of people to become artists when they didn't know that they could be artists, which is a fantastic thing. For the community, I had actually developed a class to start teaching people how to use the map tools, and I had a help from a number of different people in the community as well, people like yourself, Aaron, and Blue Cyan and Vex, and a couple of others as well too. But uh, basically, Doug, the map tools has been one of the things that has really been transformative for the platform itself. And I want to ask you to jump in and talk about kind of what was the impetus for that, and how you guys have seen that develop over the last year since it was made public.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously maps are one of the more visual components of PTT play. And so, it's basically maps and then the personalities in the video, the people that are playing, that a lot of people focus on one or more of those things. On your own personal screen, you'll see more character sheet use and reference material, that sort of thing. But the streaming environment has really taken off. And so obviously maps are central to that. So we want that to look good. We want it to be a first-class citizen of the program and have all the kind of cool capabilities you could do. But at the same time, we understand that there's a big difference in what people are able to create with map making tools, depending on their own artistic ability and their familiarity with things like Photoshop and other like graphic editing tools. And so, one of the focuses has been on, let's make sure that we have an easy to use interface that will, work for people that may not have any artistic talent or maybe, just not interested in that specific aspect, but we still want them to be able to make things that look good. And so that's why, like, when you think about what's the easiest thing that you can do, tile packs are kind of that, right? So you want to be able to, if you buy, the Paizo and Pathfinder's got loads and loads of actual, tile packs that they sell in the store, in game stores, and you buy those and you can just kind of lay them out and arrange them and reuse them. So that's one of the things I think that's super easy, really easy for people to build stuff and use. But there were some challenges with that we wanted to make sure it worked well. Obviously when you talk about when you're only a single company, it's easy. You just standardize. This is the size that everything is, and it just fits, right? So when you have multiple companies all doing tile packs, and one person might have a different resolution that they like to have. One person may use grids. One person may be gridless. All these kinds of things come into play. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to build a system that looks like it just works, that people don't understand. It's actually doing a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes. It's automatically scaling everything down to the same scale, fitting into the same. So if you prefer to run a 50 pixel grid or 100 pixel grid or 150 or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're just still dragging stuff over, and the metadata on the tile itself is going to help you basically. On top of that, once you get stuff dragged in, you could still scale up or down, and we want everything that goes with that to scale up or down as well. I don't know how other VTTs tackle that issue, or if they even attempted to tackle that issue, but I think it's really pretty neat how we plan that from the beginning. So if you have a tile that has line of sight defined, it has doorways and windows and lighting and all this kind of stuff, as you drop that tile onto a map, you rotate it, everything rotates. You scale it up or down, everything scales. The auto scaled thing that I mentioned earlier, if I'm using a one that's twice the resolution of another one, it still snaps and fits right down into the same size. It's just dead simple, and that's what we really wanted it to be from an end user perspective. And then the beauty of being digital is that same thing with miniatures and tokens, right? So if I have a bunch of plastic figurines for different figures and I have 2 or 3 of those, but I wanted to have an encounter with 12 of them, no big deal, right? As long as you have one digital version, you can have as many of them as you need. So I think the same thing is really pretty nice with tiles. You don't have to have a whole stack of, straight cavern tunnels that you lay out one after the other. You could just, use the same resource. And then from a technical standpoint, again, it'll just, send only one of those down to each of the clients, and then, just duplicate it, copy it. So I think I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. I think that the design is going to continue to evolve, but it's pretty solid right now, and it just comes across as being easy to use. One of the other things I think it was really pretty cool and clever that I give Carl all the credit for this particular thing. I think it's brilliant. Is his painting with paintbrushes with images, where you can drag an image of a cavern wall or a river or whatever directly onto your paintbrush, and then you can paint, and whatever pathway you do, it does a really pretty clever job of actually like making it look like a seamless flowing kind of stream. So I think a lot of that comes from the fact that he uses Photoshop regularly, so he wanted the same kind of functionality and features. But to be honest, Josh, our artist, our staff artist, thinks that there's a lot of things you can do in Fantasy Grounds that are easier for him to do than it is for him to do in Photoshop, and he is an expert Photoshop user. And so I think it's really a testament to the work that has gone into the image tool that we can do that sort of thing. There's a few other things I'd still like to see that we have on our list to do, tile, flooring tile and all that kind of stuff, where you can draw out any kind of arbitrary shape and it fills it in with a texture pattern that's repeated and stuff like that. That needs to also be added, and similarly do a lot of magic stuff that's quite complicated behind the scenes, but looks like it just works. So that's one of the next kind of big things we have on there.
Yeah.
Nice.
One of the things, go ahead, Aaron.
No, I said that's nice. I have noticed the changes as well. So very good.
Yeah. One of the things that I would compliment you guys on too is that with the combination of what you guys do to interact in the forum, as well as with Josh's regular streams that he does every Saturday, 3 o'clock, if anybody needs a plug, right? But you guys are doing the right stuff in order to also educate the community on exactly how to use all of the tools as well.
Yeah, it's almost like a separate hobby that you could get into. People like to just get in and create and do stuff like that. So the stuff that Josh does things with the image tool that I'll probably never ever get to that anywhere near that level. But it's cool to just kind of watch him. We jokingly refer to him as the Bob Ross of Fantasy Grounds, because he'll just at any point in time he could spit up 3 hours and just have this amazing thing that from start to finish you're just amazed at what he produced within the program.
You should put a wig on him a couple of times during the stream to, yeah, get that going. All right. Any other questions about the map tools?
Nope.
All right, Aaron, you want to jump into our next topic?
Yeah, so we were gonna do the roadmap, but let's just talk about history. Let's talk about the Smiteworks history a little bit. I know you've said it, on different shows and things. I think it's good to revisit that, especially for people that are new to the platform.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I probably, apologize in advance for folks who have heard the same story repeated, many, many times since we've, been in business for a number of years now. But yeah, Fantasy Grounds originally was formed by 3 gentlemen out of Finland. And so Villa, and Tero, great chaps actually, had come up with this idea to make a video game like virtual tabletop that at the time it was that plus Maptools was out there, I think, and Clujworks. There were only a few real options there. And I felt like they made a really strong foray into the space with kind of what they'd built. And then that was Fantasy Grounds 1. Fantasy Grounds 1 was really more of a proof of concept. Fantasy Grounds 2 came out and they had kind of re-architected some things that really set it up well for the future, in my opinion. But they weren't doing much with licensing. They had a few things out there that they were letting other people do some licensing on. And but I felt like there was some missed opportunities on some things, but they had the good framework in play. And so I bought it just as an end user, just like you guys had bought Fantasy Grounds. I bought it for my own personal group because I was moving from one state to another state. So here I was playing in person regularly with a couple different groups of people. And when I moved away, I'm like, hey, I want to keep playing with those people. What kind of tools and options are out there and available? And I would, at the same time, I also used a couple tools, DM Genie, I used to use quite a bit too. So I liked using software to help my game, campaign management, prep, that sort of stuff already too. And I found that Fantasy Grounds provided campaign management and prep and an online play component. And so really like that quite a bit. Then I saw how easy it was to build your own content from scratch because of the framework they had built. And so, I built a Star Wars Saga Edition rule set for my own personal use that I ended up using. Actually, I never ended up running the game. I just spent all my time building it and prepping it and using it and stuff like that locally. But I was like, well, this is pretty extensible, and so we could really build anything off of here because of the power of the platform itself. And so I was in kind of a transition period in my career. I had a software consulting company that was doing fairly well and was looking for other things to do. And this was kind of a hobby of mine. So I, reached out and checked with them to see if they'd be interested in selling the company. And so I guess a little bit of a leap from, hey, I really like the software to I'd like to buy the company. But, they were not interested initially. And, basically I just kind of said, okay, I understand you're not really interested. You're happy with the way it's going. But if you were to throw out a price, where would that price, kind of land, And so once I kind of got them thinking about it, they ended up, thinking about it a little bit more and a little bit more. And then amongst the three of them, they came up with a price. And from there, it was just a matter of negotiation. And I think also I conveyed to them that I was going to be a good steward of their creation. Whenever you build anything and it's out there in the public, I think it's like a baby of yours, it's like a child of yours. And so you want to see that it's taken care of. You don't want to ever see someone buy something and it just dies on the vine or it goes down a bad path. And then you're like, man, they really ruined what I had built. And so that was part of it as well, is that I conveyed to them that that we had, or that I had plans to grow it in a positive way. At the same time, I reached out to Moon Wizard on the forums, who was my business partner, John Gregory. And he was also similar to me. He was just building stuff and sharing it for free on the community. He was a community dev. And I was like, hey, you know, you look like you are really proficient in building rule sets and extensions and that kind of stuff. And I'm looking to, you know, buy the company. Would you be interested in joining me in this kind of venture? We had never met in person. He was just some guy on a forum, you know, that I had kind of met and hung out with. And so he was like, oh yeah, I'm interested. So then next thing you know, we're talking about buying the company together. And, you know, things didn't quite work out. We had a few other people, like some of my gaming group buddies and other stuff, and had about 10 people that we were trying to get in to all go together and buy this company. You know, of course, banks don't want to do any loans on anything. So everything had to be a personal thing, because you could bring a business plan to a bank and they, you know, whenever you need money, banks are never there, it seems like. So I ended up, everybody dropped out except for me, really. And then I had my brother-in-law jumped in for like 10 grand or something like that. And we basically bought the company with a second mortgage on my house at the time. And it was kind of fun and kind of exciting. You know, my wife thankfully had seen me make some similar crazy decisions in the past, but she was like, you're buying what? A video game company from Finland? Like, are you sure about this? You know, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It'll be good. And, you know, so did that. And then John, after I bought it, 3 months later, that was in 2009, 3 months later in 2010, reached back out to John. Hey, I know it didn't work out. You didn't end up going in and buying it with me, but would you still want to come in? And he said, yeah, sure. So I sold him shares in the company. And then we kind of took it over from there. And it just, from 2009 to 2012, it was really, we had some limitations because we were actually, it was seller financed was the other thing too. So I had a double mortgage, big chunk that we paid them up front, and then, you know, seller finance from there for the next 3 years. And we couldn't really make major changes, because if we defaulted, they would keep all our money and it would all go back to them, revert back to them. So it's kind of an interesting way that we managed to get that to work out when the banks didn't come through. And so, you know, after 2012, when I got close to that end, I was like, you know what, I think I can go full-time on this. And then we ended up going full-time, actually a little bit after 2012. Got on Steam was a major thing. I wanted to get on Steam because I thought that would give us more visibility. That took hold. Then after we were on Steam, managed to get Wizards of the Coast on board. We had had a bunch of other smaller publishers before then, but you know, I was courting Paizo, I was courting Wizards of the Coast, other IPs out there, and you know, it kind of worked out. And I think if you look back at it, it was neat that we, you know, kind of got in the market early enough, and we kind of, you know, proved out the concept. And so that now you see like Roll20 out there as well. They came and got some of the same licenses that we ended up getting, and so you know, and other people are doing similar things now. And I think it's all because we really showed the publishers like Wizards of the Coast that, hey, this is a viable thing that can just provide an extra line of revenue on your bottom line, and it doesn't hurt your other sales. You know, that was a big fear, is that, okay, if we did this online thing, people will quit buying our physical books or whatever. And that's not the case. You know, what we find is that people buy both.
Well, I know it's now part of our history too, but you know, of all the things that have been crazy about COVID, tabletop gaming, and especially virtual tabletop gaming, has been a boon, I think, to lots of people. What's been your take on that?
Yeah, we had an explosion due to COVID, basically. Well, it was an explosion due to COVID and the pandemic, and at the same time launching Fantasy Grounds Unity. So it was like this kind of like perfect storm of all these things coming together. And it's hard to say which part each one contributed to that. It's, you know, we'll never know, you know, what it would have been with one of those or only, you know, two of those or whatever. But you know, it's really, really taken off. We've had to grow our company quite a bit just to keep up with, you know, new customers and all that sort of stuff as well. And then new publishers, you know, every publisher that's been out there, suddenly people weren't going to game stores and playing anymore. They weren't going to game stores and buying content. And so you had publishers that had not gone the digital route that are suddenly like, hey, I need to get on this digital thing or my business is going to collapse. And so we legitimately are, you know, helping provide resources that keep publishers in business, you know. So I feel like it's been a great thing for the industry to really, keep them from having all their eggs in one basket. And I think a lot of people found out that they couldn't just go through their traditional channels because I think COVID caught everybody by surprise. No one expected that. Who would have ever expected that everything would be shut down? I don't think that was something that anybody expected. And not just in America, but across the entire world. I mean, a worldwide thing. It was, the only time in our lifetime we'll probably see that unless there's, World War IV or anything like that, World War III or
Right,
four or
right.
whatever. So
Mhm.
hopefully this is the only major one we'll see like that. But, it's good to diversify.
Yeah, you made a comment right there a minute ago about expanding the business to take care of your customers, and just a compliment that I would pay you guys too. Smiteworks is a very customer centric business. When people reach out, they want help with licensing, or they paid for something, or they can't get something to work, or anything like that. You guys bend over backwards. It's the same level of paying attention to the customer and giving customer service that companies like LL Bean and others like that, who have built their brand off of customer service, have done. And I think that if 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 not for other reasons, like being the best tool for a dungeon master, that I would have made a decision to go with you guys just for that, because that is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's one of the things that I feel really blessed that everyone who's joined our team from the customer support side are fantastic, amazing, amazing, folks that have joined our company to help do that. And on top of that, we have amazing community members. I can't stress that enough. We have people in our community that are almost like, I don't know if they sleep. They're nonstop. And we got Trinlo and Zacchaeus and lots of folks that you'll see all their names all the time. I see Gemini Monka in the chat here too. I see his name all the time answering stuff and just jumping in and doing that because they love the community and
Yeah.
they support each other. So the community supports each other. What you guys are doing with Fantasy Grounds College, same thing. It's like, who would have thought that a group of users would band together and form this whole extra Discord and website and all the things, and putting on symposiums and classes. And I mean, it's amazing to see that level of support,
It
come through.
is. It is, and I think it works best because of the collaboration, right? I mean, we couldn't have been as successful with all the symposiums that we've been running all year long without, your help and the help of all of these additional community members that have jumped in, who are experts. In chat now, Evil Evolution is there, and he was key to our Paizo Starfinder month that we did too, right? And G-Rex Greg has been, the backbone for all of those months as well too. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So all right. Any other history questions, Aaron?
No, I think I'm good. I think he touched on a lot of older and newer things, so that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing would kind of segue into a roadmap of sorts. So we don't really need to know the ifs, ands, and buts, but what do you have, like, on your queue to address? Let's say, let's go out for the rest of the year. Let's start with that.
Yeah, so the Forge took us a little bit longer to get rolled out than we, had originally anticipated. But having that rolled out, we'll have to do some more support for that for the foreseeable future here before we can pull some resources off. But we're looking at things like sound, obviously, is a big component that people want to see more sound sort of things. I got a couple other little hidden nuggets that I don't really even mention because I don't want anyone else to get a head start on us on that. But dice is another one I think is cool, that we've got kind of a project around doing some cool dice stuff. And, so you can have reskin dice and cool effects and stuff like that, that I think could be really pretty neat and fun, and a way to individualize your own personal experience from a player or a GM perspective, because everybody loves dice. If I think about what people do at the gaming table when they sit down, what are you most proud of, right? So you either have your character sheet, maybe you have a custom portrait done, you've got your little accessories that you've added, the wormwood boxes and all the kind of cool little things that you like to do like that. But the main thing that people focus on is dice, and people always get more dice. So, you go to Gen Con and you see the big towers of dice and stuff like that. And I've got loads and loads and loads of dice, and whenever I go to a convention, I get more dice, and it's like, so dice are the thing, and dice are one of the things that was really kind of a thing that's distinguished and set Fantasy Grounds apart from other VTTs and stuff and other software, was that rolling the dice in Fantasy Grounds is very very fun. It's like, it seems like you're rolling dice. It really does a great job of simulating that experience and that feel. So the next step really is not just changing the color of it, but let's change the textures, let's change the the physics of them potentially. Let's really make that a fun experience that we can enhance.
Oh no, my daughter's totally addicted to dice right now, and you're going to make it worse. So, awesome. All right, so like,
and then
big
like
picture.
Sirenscape is one that we've been wanting to do for a long time. The folks at Sirenscape, Ben Loomis especially, amazing, cool, collaborative guy that has been wanting to work with us forever and ever, and been fantastic, been super, super patient. And he understands that, yeah, sometimes we just have to get our resource freed up to do the thing that we need to do. But we would love to see an official sort of thing connected there. We could get some packs that would link in and, help promote both of us, and just, again, tie us in together and allow us to utilize our stuff more clearly and easily. I mean, I see some of it on the Forge. Some of the Forge stuff is actually addressing that too. So that's cool.
Yep, very cool. All right, so longer term, what do we see for Fantasy Grounds and Smiteworks?
Yeah, again, I don't want to tip my hat too much. I've got some things that I think are going to be. I don't see anyone else doing some of the things that I have planned, but we haven't even laid it out yet, so I don't I don't want to throw it out there too much. But
Yeah. Okay. What about any additional publishers and their rule sets and other things like that that are coming in?
yeah, so I mean, we're always looking for new stuff. It's easy to throw in, Kickstarter support for people that are coming out with cool, clever things, especially if it's like based off of an existing rule set like 5e or something like that. It's relatively easy to throw on. I mean, it's still a lot of work, but it's not like the same amount of work as like a full-on rule set. But we have a few extra rule sets that are kind of in some stage of development. Unfortunately, on rule sets can take quite a bit of time and effort to do. I don't know how much folks here have gone in and done like the Lua scripting and XML and all that sort of stuff. But to support, a brand new rule set is a pretty large undertaking. And so we're super hesitant about, we don't really disclose a whole lot of that until we see that it's in the final stages of testing and development, just because we know it could be 2 months down the road, it could be 6 months, it could fail and never make it over the hump, so that's something that we would love to see more stuff out there, but we have to make sure that we do it in a way that's going to be supported, and make sure that that's going to be a good experience for customers, because once they buy something, they want to feel like they have some support. And we've had a couple of rule sets that we've had to take in-house that started off as a community developed rule set that became an official rule set, and then became a new child of ours that we have to have a developer resource directly maintain. And so we only have a limited amount of bandwidth that we can do that sort of stuff. So we have to be a little cautious on growing the rule sets.
Yeah.
The Forge could be a way that people could post rule sets out.
Well, and along those lines too, I think there's a new tool out there for helping develop rule sets as well. So some of the community developers have helped, I think, test those out, and they do seem to give it positive reviews. So I
Yeah,
don't
the
know
rule set builder. So the developer who's been building that is I think he's out of Brazil. He also did the Mutants and Masterminds rule set. He's been wanting to do something like that for a while. Hopefully, wish him luck. I mean, it's a complex task he's trying to challenge and make simple.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Um, so I think our next topic is a few interesting facts. What is that supposed to be, Aaron?
All right. So looking at our recent growth and our recent surge with the numbers in regards to COVID and product releases. So we can almost guarantee that we're going to gain, a couple hundred people, if not more, when a new product comes out. So that that type of data helps us with manning how many people do we need? What kind of classes should we focus on? For instance, like the map tools, we kind of had to cobble that together between 3 or 4 people to get a good handle on what are the basics we want to show people before they go further into the map tools. So the numbers thing is interesting. For COVID, I honestly say we gained 1,000 people. I mean, just in 2 months. I mean, it was ridiculous. I've never seen that type of growth in the college ever. And I'm sure that resounds outward too. Um, the other thing is the rule set per month thing. I want to say, besides having the diversity, which we lacked there a lot of, is that it's brought us together in a better way with other individuals that are into other rule sets. So I think the perception of what we're doing here was, oh, they're just doing 5e. I don't, I don't want to do anything with that. So the thing about that is, the interesting fact is that by having the individuals that are strong and passionate and expert in those things here, it gives us that diversity and the ability to help people with other things. So like there's quite a few things that come up in Pathfinder that I can't answer because I don't know the rules per se. Or I know fantasy grounds, that's what I focus on, but you know, and it works kind of the same throughout all the different platforms. But there's the main problem or disconnect is, how does the interface run or work with the actual rule set? And that's a three-way prong thing. You have fantasy grounds, you have the rule set, but then you have the user. So how does the user perceive it and use the product together? And that's the thing that can't really be taught, right? That's something that comes with time or just with the individual that's using the product. But making the connection between the community, the platform, and the rule set is very important to uh, what we're doing here, and also outside in just the gaming community. So the disconnect would be that the hardest part is just getting that knowledge, that first initial, oh, okay, so this is how this rule works with this mechanic, works with the platform, and then also fits my game. So that those are the things that really change the behavior and the desire of the community as to what they want to buy or what they want to go with in return, in regards to using the platform. So we're talking about user experience. We're talking about understanding between the platform and the actual rule set, and that's where the rubber meets the road. You really have to know that piece of it to understand how all that stuff works together. And interesting enough, got a lot of good feedback from the community about how we've been able to do that as a community. And uh, also we've been able to pull in Smiteworks on that too, and ask for certain things, or look into certain products, or whatever the relationship develops into. We've been able to capitalize on that, and we've been able to utilize it in our classes and how we advertise, and how we go about in the future, like how are we going to operate and run in regards to getting the right people in the right places. Because that's another thing, is it's just like what you're going through, Doug, is kind of like growing pains, and you have to have the right people in place to address those things, because you can't, like you said, you can't just throw someone in a corner and say, okay, we're good, we're going to go to the next area. You got to train them. They have to get a feel and understanding for the community. They need to know how to work with you guys. Obviously, you guys don't work in an office together, so if somebody doesn't do something, or they're behind on something, you have to communicate that, and that's important. So interesting fact on that is that our growth has been exponential since COVID, and our website data when we had it was pretty interesting. A lot of countries are coming on board with Smiteworks, and that's something that I may want to talk to you guys down the road about. Something I had mentioned before, but it is definitely out there. I think there's enough data to show that there's a need for that to come up in the future. But interestingly, we have a lot of people that come from all over the world that really want to in on Fantasy Grounds. So that's a huge thing. And if you get like China and Brazil and Latin America and all those places, you're going the right direction. That's hard for you to support that, but it's there, and it may be 10% of your overall, but I think that that piece can be grown quite a bit. And with our help and with our volunteers, we've been able to do a little bit of that in regards to languages and such. So, we have Portuguese people, and we've got people that can speak Spanish, and, so we've got a little bit of that going on. And that is something I'm really proud of. It helps with the inclusion thing, and it helps with diversity. And also, you have a lot of hidden talent out there that is out there that's never going to be recognized and realized until you pull them into something like this. And then you're getting you know you get your top guys from Germany and the UK and France and all over the world that are going to contribute to your end goal. So that's kind of what college has been kind of doing in the background, is trying to make that happen. And also our charities. And that's one thing that Garner had talked to me about, is that we need to start doing more charities. I thought about that, and I said, well, Smiteworks already does one. They do they do the life one that you offer all the time. So
Yeah, I did the Save the Children. I do that every year, where we basically, whenever people check out, they have you can contribute $1 to the Save the Children fund, and then we always match that. Smiteworks matches that when we send it over to them. And then a lot of times they'll have someone from their organization which will turn around and match it, like a bigger company. So I
wow,
think the last one we did was a little over $10,000 that we raised for them.
that's great.
Yep.
Garner is also part of the Lions Club, so he's looking at ways to interface that with what we're doing here. That's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, and
Eh,
if I can jump in and say a couple of things about that one. So the Lions Club is a group that is focused on not a single particular thing. They had been for many years, and that was blindness and preventing blindness. But basically, because in most first world countries, preventable blindness has been addressed, they have gone much broader, and they allow each of their clubs to focus on whatever it is that they would like to. But things are at the forefront, like diabetes and hunger and other global issues as well, like the environment. But for us, and this had been a good conversation between me and Leroon, but for us, mental health and mental health awareness is something that we felt really strongly about because of things in our own personal lives, but also because it's something that we feel that tabletops and virtual tabletops can help with on a regular basis. Role playing is a tool that is used for mental health on a regular basis, and it helps develop interpersonal skills. It also helps with a number of other things too. And so combine the Lions Club's ability to specifically address a lot of needs in a very strong way, and to match funds just like you're talking about as well. And that's one of the big reasons why we wanted to partner with the Lions Club, is because we could get matching grants to make specific progress around issues that were important to us, along with a platform that you guys have given that is healthy. It's not just something that you guys do a great job because you've created a quality product and you do a good job from a customer service standpoint, but it's something that can actually help people on a regular basis too. And so we have said, hey, let us combine these good things in order that we can help more people out too. And so that it has become and is going to continue to be a much larger focus of what what our community group is going to be paying attention to.
Yeah, we had, I mean, I'm not a doctor or an expert in mental health or any of these other areas, but I have had a number of people come to me and let me know that, hey, it's really helped with either my mental health or mental health of a loved one or something like that. And another one that I've had a number of people come up to me over the years and tell me about is like people who have children that are autistic, they have found that their autistic children really like the interface within Fantasy Grounds, like the things that are there that they can click on, they can move around and stuff like that. It gives them something they focus on, and they found it to be really, positive for them. So I'm happy to hear that. I mean, I don't know, again, the science behind it or what's good or bad about it, exactly. But I love hearing that is helping people.
Yeah, we do have a couple of people that are on staff that are actually actively involved, educators, as well as psychologists who are actually part of our staff and do also talk about the benefits as well. And so those are the guys that are educated and do have the degrees that tell us that it's valuable. But yes, like you, neither Aaron nor I are the certified experts, but we have had the same feedback from those certified experts who do participate as part of our staff. So,
And early on, I had people approach. They wanted to monetize the college, and I thought that was not really the direction I wanted to go. But the one thing that was really helpful, and I really didn't want to bring it up at the time because I thought it was a little too aggressive, but had an individual ask if Smiteworks would be interested in potentially partnering up with local schools and having a coordinated effort in providing a copy of Fantasy Grounds to a library, let's say a subsidized, not free, but a subsidized copy. Whoever is volunteering or working at the library, or it could be a school after school event, would take that to the next step. They would do all the handling of the enrollment and that sort of thing. I thought it was a great idea, but who would manage it and you know make that connection
Yeah,
between?
we've had a number of teachers and schools and school groups that have reached out to us over the years, and we've not yet come up with a way that we could actually get that to work out. I mean, the intent, we would love to be able to support and do that sort of stuff, but there's a lot of kind of technical challenges, security challenges, licensing challenges that would entail that are a little bit difficult to wrap our hands around fully, just because of how our license keys work, our user authentication and all that sort of stuff, and how that flows through to our agreements with publishers. So there's some pretty significant roadblocks that have kind of kept us from being able to jump full force into that area. And we just haven't figured it out yet.
Right. And I kind of thought the same thing right off the bat. I thought, man, this is a great idea, but very difficult to manage. And that was what I told that individual. I said, you can ask them, but this is the sort of thing they're going to be, looking at. So I don't know if they ever even got with you, but I think that that piece of Fantasy Grounds, the community at least, I think there is a solution out there. We just haven't discovered it yet. So I wouldn't give up hope on that just yet. It's
yeah.
important though that we bring in the youth, and that gives you longevity. And a lot of us old geezers here are going to be dying off in the next 20 years, so we want to make sure that that we bring in the new folks.
Yeah, it's similarly with foreign language support. We have some kind of challenges there that we've not really fully cracked yet too. And it's both technical and it's licensing based challenges. And so that's something that, from the outside, sometimes it seems like, oh, that should be super easy. People have been localizing software for ages and ages, which is definitely true. But there's two different stages of localization. There's localization of our own interfaces that we have control over, and then there's localization of the content, which is in these DLC packs, and that's basically, and we have over 2,000 of those, and more of them roll out on a regular basis. And so sometimes those publishers have licenses that they've already signed away the rights. Like I know Paizo has a group of people that do Pathfinder localization, and they print books in Spanish and Italian and all these other languages that contract and how those contracts were written up with no thinking of digital spaces ever came into mind when they first drafted those contracts. How does that apply? So distribution, worldwide distribution, exclusivity, that sort of stuff all comes into play from the content perspective, and then also from the technical side of things. In addition to just trying to manage all of that, the localization, there are differences in languages and their sentence structure. And so a lot of how Fantasy Grounds operates with regard to like automation and a lot of our rule sets, like our 5e rule set as an example, every rule set has its own separate types of automation that would need to be figured out. But the, verb noun order is different between English and Spanish. They're reversed, right?
Yep.
So all the parsing, not just changing of the language, look for this word, then that word. You can't look for that word, then that word. You have to look for, you have to flip those. And then, the sentence structure just has to be taken into consideration. And so that's why you see things like Das Schwarzong, which is a German rule set that's been very popular for the last decade or more, is
Yep.
written specifically for the German audience because it relies upon how German sentence structure and phrasing and parsing and stuff is, and so even though they came out with an English version of it, they can't use the same stuff. They have to basically rewrite something from scratch. And it's that's what you're dealing with when you talk about different languages and different language support. It's not as simple as another video game that you localize. That's why we're like, oh, all these other video games are localizing. Yeah, but it's a fixed finite thing, whereas Fantasy Grounds is an open-ending font of content that's going to be rolling through the system. And so it's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I understand that, and I have explained that to other people that have wondered why there wasn't any foreign language support. But on a positive side of that, the individuals that are using Fantasy Grounds are learning English. And that is a huge boon to marketing that to a community outside of what we know. So yeah, I think if you framed it that way, as opposed to focusing on what you can't do, focus on what it can do, and that is teach English. It is not an English teacher, but if you get someone that's excited enough about the game, they're going to learn the English. So it's kind of, you know, a way to. I think if you're going to frame it for anything outside of the United States and, the English speaking world, is to frame it like that, and that's about the best you can do at the moment is to say, yeah, we don't have direct support for the, you know, parsing and all that, but we do understand that, this could be a tool to learn English, and anybody that's taken English courses in their own country will appreciate that. And it kind of trickles down. It trickles down to their community. It trickles down to their friends. It's something that Fantasy Grounds can do well, and I think that if you put that a little effort into that, I think that would open it up for more of the people outside of English speaking.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I remember very fondly when I was in college, one of my friends was from Ecuador and he played Magic the Gathering. And he was like ranked number 3 or number 4 in Ecuador at the time when he came to college at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. And so we would play Magic the Gathering and he was, obviously very, very good. And he was like showing me how to do various things. And because I was just kind of getting into the game. And it was just funny to hear, because he had learned the English, words just from, his own kind of efforts. And so he would pronounce things in funny ways, instead of Armageddon, it was Armageddon, and so I'm like, oh, are you casting Armageddon again? And so we would kind of, have a good laugh at that sort of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. So our next topic is going to be about rebranding the college. It's something that would have happened sooner or later. Initially, I had thought about expanding with the release of Unity, and I was going to go with University, but a lot of confusion. Like right now, we have the college; it's kind of confused with Classic or that type of thing. I thought it was kind of funny. Initially, I had a lot of fun with it, but when you really look at it, it's not that fun. It could be very frustrating and irritating. So I've backed down on the comedic value and look at it more seriously. So one of the things I'd like all of you to know, and I know Doug remembers this conversation, is when I first started the college, I really didn't want college to be, I had it as the church at one time, but those names didn't stick very well. But
All right, Bishop Leroon.
yes, and now, you know, several months later, Doug's like, yeah, I don't know about Fantasy Grounds. So can you guys put like FG College instead of Fantasy Grounds? Because, we're not saying no, but we prefer that, that you don't use Fantasy Grounds. And then it just kind of, I don't know what happened to that, but it I don't think we had another conversation about that for several years. So here we are now, revisiting that topic. And one of the things that is going to happen soon is a rebranding for the college, which entails our social media, our website, all of our, everything has to be changed. Our, the YouTube and all that stuff has to change. So, I was kind of resistant to that initially because I looked at the amount of work it's going to take, and then I also looked at, is it really worth all the effort? So,
What about my business cards, boss? Because
yes,
I got my whole business cards printed up.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we looked at that, and initially I was pretty pissed off, to be honest. I didn't want to change, but then I looked at it. The next day I got with Garner, I yelled at him, and he didn't have anything to do with it, but. And I said, the next day I cooled down, and I said, you know what? We're just gonna do it. We're just gonna go and work with Doug and with Smiteworks, and we're gonna work this out as a team, and not be so resistant to change, because that's something that I preach about is not being able to change, and I think that I would be pretty hypocritical if I wasn't able to do that myself. So, with that said, I've talked to Doug and Garner and others in the community. We did some voting. It looks like the Fantasy Grounds College moniker is, still what everyone notices and they want. But if we're going to change it, definitely Fantasy Grounds Academy is the change that we are going to do, and that starts today. So when this conversation is done, the first thing we're going to be looking at is, how are we going to, uh, what pieces do we want to change, and that sort of thing. So it's going to take a while, probably the rest of the year, to be honest, to
Yeah.
switch over to everything for FGA. So Brad had a conversation with Doug,
You can
and
market that to the Canadians.
yeah, eh? Yeah,
FGA.
yeah. So I want to have Smiteworks input on this, as well as Garner, because this is a big change for us. You can consider this like an announcement, because we're going to change our name to Academy, based off of data and off of necessity, and also for our branding going forward for
Mhm.
for
Being
Smiteworks.
consistent. And yeah.
Yes. So, Doug, let's talk about how that what the beginning and what the conversation was, because I still want to hear what the real background is.
So the big thing really for me was, I think, when you were mentioning Fantasy Grounds University, and we had just kind of came up with FGC. You had Fantasy Grounds College, and then we started calling Fantasy Grounds Classic, and we would abbreviate it as FGC. I know people were like, okay, is it FGC meaning Fantasy Grounds College or Fantasy Grounds Classic or whatever? And then we had Fantasy Grounds Unity. We obviously said FGU. So a lot of people just call it Unity, but that confuses people because they think it's, Unity 3D or something like that, which is what it's built off of. And so FGU, we're like, yeah, we really want to keep the FGU to ourselves. Like, FGU should just be, whenever we say FGU, we refer to Fantasy Grounds Unity. And so that was really the big takeaway for me, is that we wanted to maintain that. And then similarly, I was hearing some feedback about one of the things we've dealt with a lot of times has been a challenge within Fantasy Grounds and adoption, is there's a mentality that Fantasy Grounds is complex or hard to get in and use. And so that's something we've been continually working on. How can we make it an easier beginning experience for GMs, beginning experience for players? And, what can we do to streamline that process? So we've looked at doing things like, the character builder wizard is an attempt to address that sort of an issue, to make an easier interface for people to kind of go in and create characters and do things like that. We're looking at redoing our kind of tutorials, which have been only built during Fantasy Grounds Classic, so they've aged horribly. And so how can we look at tackling that? I got some really good feedback from Cobalt Press. They have an interesting thing that they're doing with regard to like a interactive imagery that they use right now, and they use it on Roll20, but we could do the same sort of thing where we basically, have an interface that's just loaded up by default that people can go in and that move tokens around and see how line of sight works, and just it shows them, teaches them directly, the interface. So we're looking at that sort of stuff all the time. What Fantasy Grounds College does, the classes are fantastic, but we did want to make sure that we look at it and say, does it make it seem intimidating if you hear the word college or university, because people have different things that they associate with that. Sometimes people might really gravitate towards that and say, oh, I really like the idea of a college or a university. Other people might say, oh, that makes it seem more daunting. Like, oh, I didn't go to college, or I don't want to go to college, or whatever. I just want to go in and use the software right out of the gate. So I still think the idea of having tutorials, having people that are willing to teach others and walk them through things is super valuable, because that hands-on experience is hard to duplicate. It's hard to replace that elsewhere. But that's why we threw out the idea of, okay, well, what about like an academy could be an option, so and I understand from the rebranding things is obviously a royal pain to do. So we had offered for Brad to help kind of do some graphic mock-ups and that sort of stuff to help support and facilitate that with some, colors and stuff that you guys had already, done polls and done some stuff on. So, Brad does great work for us and has really transformed kind of our, our newsletter look and appeal and our social media, all that sort of stuff. He's been kind of taking a handle on that. The only downside is obviously Brad is super busy all the time. So we don't have enough time. So it's just a resource contention thing. But, I know we've offered him to help, and he's come up with some stuff that he's been working on for quite a while. I think he just got it to you guys yesterday. So I don't think we had an opportunity to really look through that and weigh in on it or not yet, but we're willing to help kind of, facilitate that process for a change to Fantasy Grounds Academy. And hopefully that'll make it more welcoming to people, to, from all walks of life, to say, hey, it's not something that's intimidating. Because I think once people get in and they're in the classes with you, I think it's super easy. You guys walk them through that, and you do a great job. And so we just need to get them through the door. How can we get more people through the door to you guys to have a good experience?
Yeah, so this is supposed to help lower the wall, and also to give us an opportunity to make an upgrade to our overall appeal and our look. So I put an example in the text area of one of the pieces that Brad had proposed. We haven't even looked at these, so you guys are seeing this for the first time. We just saw these yesterday, but this is an example of the logo and the colors based on, the input and the conversations that we had before. Um, I'm really good with that. I think, Fantasy Grounds Academy is fine. It looks pretty good. It's not ugly. It has the color appeal that we like. It's pretty simple. It doesn't show, it doesn't look like a college logo, except for the lettering, which we, discussed. But we don't have the swords anymore, because that indicates that we're only doing fantasy product.
Yeah.
So that's something that we wanted to get rid of, because we're not just doing fantasy, we're doing everything. So that was something that, I love that shield. I mean, that's my heart, but I understand that we need to get rid of the shield and the swords, and look at, the academy side of things. And you know I got basically, the best people, I think, in the community, and in helping. We have a lot of talent here. I don't want to waste that talent on being stubborn and just one track mind. So I have Garner working, and Greg working on the website, a new website. So Garner, if you want to talk about things that you're doing to support the switchover.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are a few different things. Obviously, the conversation so far has focused on branding, but in addition to the branding, which is very important for us to be able to properly market and communicate with everybody, from a technical standpoint, we need to do a better job. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier too. We did make some changes from where we were being hosted, and it's caused a couple of pieces of content on our site right now, like where you can I guess, log in and unregister for a class, not to be there. But all of that is actually going to be fixed, and it's the reason why we're dealing with that right now is because we're actually taking care of doing some single sign-on work that's going to integrate both our Discord community along with our website. And so that way, all you have to have is a Discord ID that will then be picked up, and you can actually log into Discord, and that will be your authentication on the website as well. So that's actually a very important piece of it. And then the other major thing that Greg and I are doing is how do you properly?
Can I jump in there real quick?
Yeah, go
Sure.
ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, are you guys, is it a requirement that a user needs to have Discord to
No.
use the college?
No,
Or-
no, it's not. So you don't have to have the Discord in order to actually participate or be a member of the college. But mm, I would say that the huge lion's share of our members come to us through Discord, and that those people then end up having to create an additional ID that they have to manage that is similar to the Discord ID. You can actually do it in either direction, meaning you could create an ID on the website and then leverage that ID or that email for Discord, and you can tie those two together afterwards. But the idea is to allow for there just to be one step for people to be able to log on and
Yeah, I mean, I think Discord is a very strong play in the current environment, but I mean, just looking back towards, Fantasy Grounds has been around since 2004, and, we had it since 2009. I know, Google Hangouts was big for a while, and, then Skype was big for a while. And so things do have a tendency to kind of, go in and out of popularity. So just as a long-term idea.
They do, but basically there's and I'm geeking out on you here. The website itself has a user database, and that user database is an abstract of any other solution. What we are doing to this now is we are allowing for there to be an OAuth integration that connects to Discord, and then it creates the user in the user database that matches the Discord token that is handed to you. So the same can be done actually of any of the other any other solutions, which most solutions do allow for OAuth integration. We did pick OAuth as a standard to actually do that specifically for the reasons that you're talking about as well, though, because it is a technology framework that allows for all of the SSO tools to potentially communicate with each other and pass tokens back and forth, instead of having to create an ID in every different place like the original SSO solutions actually did. So, but yes, definitely agree with that from a technical architecture standpoint. And that's actually my background as well, is security architecture among other things. So jumping in then to the next change, though, that we were talking about, is that the way that we actually register for classes and that we have different events, that's from a usability standpoint on the website. That's one of the things that Greg and I wanted to make sure that we provided an update for. And so by the end of the year, we plan to have a event management system that's going to let us have the symposiums and other things like that all could easily be registered for using the website, and that could include games and other things like that too. So
Yeah, that's a disconnect that we have. When users come in and they'll create an account on the website, and then they sign up for a class, they're a totally different person here in Discord. So we have no way to know who's who. And if we don't have that knowledge, we can't ping them, or we can't let them know that we're getting ready to run. There is an email that goes out to users. If it doesn't go to their junk mail, they'll get it. So that's been a big pain we've had since we started, and that's one of the things I've always wanted to address. And we've looked at several plugins and developers and such. So without, even if you throw a bunch of money at it, it's not what we want. So we have to customize kind of a front end so that it's more user friendly, and it also interfaces with our event tool. So that's something that we've had a big issue with is user identity.
You know, I'm pretty sure Doug's time is valuable, and this seems a bit more internal housekeeping-ish.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe let's get back on so that way
Yep.
we're not keeping Doug all day.
Yeah, I get it. So so rebranding. So the announcement is we're going to go to Academy. You have an example of the logo or iteration of it in the chat, and that we have a lot of work ahead of us. So that's basically what the big to do is.
Mhm.
So if anybody has any questions about the branding, I asked Doug if we could.
Actually, let's jump straight into any of the questions for Doug,
Sure.
so we can wrap up. Okay, so
All right.
for anybody that is in our chat right now, feel free to chime in with questions for Doug.
So going forward, Doug, you may not know who I am. I'm Boffrin. Basically, last year during the pandemic, mostly what I was doing on behalf of the college kind of became the outside insider. Was basically hitting up conventions and offering Fantasy Ground support for the events that had transitioned online. I did 12 events I volunteered for last year. From the start of the pandemic through December. So my question would be, how are you looking to further put yourself into that space? Most of the conventions that I helped with are looking forward to continuing a hybrid virtual type of environment going on in the future.
Yeah, no, that's great question. I see that continuing to grow. It's just basically barely scratching the surface, I think, right now, of what we would probably see 5 years down the road. So we've got some folks kind of looking at. I think you've worked with probably Violet Furman as well, and so she does a lot of stuff. Her focus right now has mostly been on like Adventurers League, Dungeons and Dragons Adventurers League stuff, but she just did a lot of stuff with like San Diego Comic Con had an online D&D event that she just wrapped up. We're looking at doing Gen Con online. I've got, I think, 4 seminars scheduled for Gen Con online that I'll be doing. And then I think David Middleton's doing another one as well. And so we're looking to have more of our company be participating in these kind of events and host seminars and welcoming things and that sort of thing. And then we want to try to get better at exposing these events for GMs in our community and helping support them. So we've done some things where we've basically, help support. We give some credit. Like one of the things we just recently thought about doing was giving GMs that run conventions. We're like, well, maybe we can give them like some money they can spend on the FG Forge, for instance. That's something that we could probably do pretty easily. We could just add some gold to their account. And then that way that gold flows directly into the hands of the community crafters. And so it's kind of supporting both groups of people at the same time. Let's support our GMs, let's support our community creators, at the same time. So, we'll look for opportunities like that. There's a lot of it takes a lot of management to kind of get that all set up and run, and we've not really fully cracked it yet, but appreciate your efforts in that for sure, and the other people who have been helping kind of run games regularly too.
Yeah, I thought it was neat how you guys had actually gotten a module out in time for Gary Con with doing. That was where I started out last year, right? Was Gary Con? I just went as an attendee, and then I started answering some Fantasy Grounds questions that had come up, and they were like, "Hey, let's just rope you in, right?" And so I wound up becoming part of the Gary Con staff that year, and going into this past year, I'd also helped out with Gary Con. So it was really nice to see you guys step up and like throw out, get a module in there. I'm not sure how they heard your name. Maybe me. I don't know. More of a joke, but I did actually throw that out there that they should maybe look at getting their products available on VTT in general and
Yeah.
Fantasy Grounds specifically, since I usually when I'm coming in, I don't say I'm associated with Smiteworks at all. I'm very clear. I'm like, I'm with the Fantasy Grounds College. We just go, you know, and I've been sent out, you know, my mandate is to go out, help you guys set up, organize as best you can with the event, and transition your physical event into the virtual event.
Yep. That's
yeah, I mean, that's great because a lot of people are new to that space, you know, and there's a lot of stuff to learn. I mean, if you had to, you know, put on an actual physical convention and now you're looking to run an online convention and you're looking at all these different BTT tools that are out there as well, it's pretty daunting. They've got a lot of stuff on their plate. And so I'm sure they're very much welcome having folks like yourself jump in and help give them the information that they didn't even know what to ask, you know.
Yeah, I've been bothering Luke too about getting his content on Fantasy Grounds. I had reached out to him about a year ago when he launched the Gaxmore content, and we had conversation about the you know, having that released by the community or for the community before the next GaryCon. So that wheel was already spinning. I didn't know who he had working on the content within Fantasy Grounds, but he did tell me that you know, it's underway and that you know, that they understand it and that they wanted to have that available for GaryCon. So that definitely something I had done long ago to kind of hopefully get that into the eyes of the community through Fantasy Grounds, because I thought that was important enough to bother Luke Gygax about. So anything else? Has anybody got anything that they want to ask Doug before he leaves? He's got a couple of minutes, and that's about it. So,
Yeah. Is that a one of the Larry Elmore paintings over your desk behind you?
Yes, that actually is. So
Yeah.
I can
I
show you
also-
my office is a mess. I'll do a quick paint around here for folks. So that's one of my Elmore painting. I've got a bunch of them now, so I think I can't really pull off too much without some Magic the Gathering stuff over there. Let's see, my finger's in the way here. Over here. Oh, if I can get over to it, I'm gonna disconnect. Watch. Over there, I've got all those buildings are actually a Kickstarter I did. Weta Workshop has modular little buildings that they have that are pretty cool.
Very cool.
And then I'll do a quick pan around. On the shelves, I got my bookshelves, Warhammer Armies, 40K fantasy, too much miniatures. There's my
Hobbit window.
My Hobbit window to the Hobbit hole, and more stuff there. And then my game table with my Magic the Gathering stuff, the D&D Magic stuff. I love that. Just came out, and then more miniatures. Yep, and then there we go. Come back around. You're on. So.
Yeah, I kind of thought I saw some Blood Angels out there from the red. If you know if the color's correct.
Chaos Space Marines is what they're supposed to be.
Chaos
Word bearers. Yeah.
I think a good community thing to do campaign is the D&D cribs via the community from here. It's been done before, but I think Fantasy Grounds community would be kind of cool to have photos of people's collections and put in a place where everyone can see it. If you're wanting to, that is.
I like that. We can make sure that happens with our
you just drive that.
Yeah,
you could drive that. Get people to give us snapshots. Give that to Smiteworks and let them put it in a newsletter or something like that, and you know, kind of make it an official thing, or you know, make it cool. Be cool to be nerdy.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys having me on. I got to drop off, but it's been great being a part of it. Thanks for everything you guys do. Fantastic community. Would have never imagined that a community like that would spring up and just support our game with just volunteers who just love gaming. So much appreciated.
Thanks for coming and showing up and giving us a little bit more of your time than we expected with the technical difficulties. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks everybody for attending. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.